Good day, everyone. I am Faye Corpus, a student researcher from Lyceum of the Philippines University. Today, I'll be presenting a research paper entitled Bala o Hustisya, a comparative contextual analysis on the representation of the extrajudicial killings in selected Filipino narrative films. So, in accordance with Sherak, films are created as a definitive response to occurring social problem in one society. It can reflect both past and present societal issues of the nation. So, in this study, selected EJK-related narrative films were analyzed to depict the representation of extrajudicial killings in their respective genres. The films analyzed are Neo Manila by Michael Red, Baybas by Eric Mati, and Respeto by Treb Monteras. So these films are classified as narrative films since the plot and film narratives are based on the representation of one's event. And in this case, the extrajudicial killings of former President Duterte's war on drugs campaign. On the other hand, Hofilenya discussed the EJK-related themes under the regime of President Duterte was made due to the temporary relief it impacted the Philippine cinema, since it recognized the social and political conflict of the nation. This study determined the response of the Philippine film cinema to the societal issues of EJK and the representation of EJK-related films in their respective genres, whether it represents the injustices among the victims or the number of bullets it occurred during the war on drugs campaign, hence Bala o Hustisya. Moving forward to the significance of the study, the following are the group that will benefit from this study. First are the Filipino youth, since the aim of this study is to educate and raise awareness regarding the topic of EJK that happened during the regime of President Duterte. Second are the film enthusiasts and viewers, to be more critical of watching films as they read between the lines of the film narratives. Third are the future filmmakers that will make progressive films and offer creative solution in light of this issue. Fourth are the future researchers that might want to make an in-depth study and research regarding this topic. And lastly are the families of the EJK victims as we acknowledge the representation of the victim in the EJK related films and bring light to the topic of EJK. For the rationale, first is to identify the representation in the common themes used of EJK under the film genres of selected EJK-related films. Second is to analyze the mise-en-scene's aesthetics and configuration used in the genres of the EJK films. Lastly is to have an understanding that some of the EJK-related films can be the representation for the voiceless. Moving forward to the research question, this study aims to determine the main question of the research, what are the representation of the chosen EJK-related films in their respective genre. And in line of the research question is an attempt to answer the following sub-questions by gathering information from the selected EJK-related narrative films. First sub-question is what are the mise-en-scenes, configuration, and aesthetics used in the scenes in the EJK-related narrative films. Second sub-question is what are the common themes in the representation of the EJK-related narrative films. For this study scope and limitation, this study only focused on the EJK-related films that were made locally and were released under Duterte's regime. And this study only focused on the three selected films that were also chosen to be featured during the 17th New York Asian Film Festival that showcases a lot of films that heavily tackles societal issues of one's nation. So these films are Eric Mati's By Bust, Michael Red's Neo Manila, and Treb Montera's Respeto. As for the conceptual framework of this study, since this is a comparative contextual analysis, it focuses on the three films by Bus, Neo Manila, and Respeto, and the main objective of this study is to identify the representation of EJK through the mise-en-scenes. The mise-en-scenes were divided into two parts, the aesthetics that tackles the cinematic techniques of the film, and the configuration part where it tackles the genre conventions per film. So first is the aesthetics. This study identified the cinematic technique adopted from Sri Kumar, the decor, lighting, space, costumes, and acting, and moving forward to the configuration part, where the study used the genre film theory to identify the genres of the film. Under this genre film theory are the genres action, crime and thriller, society and war, and drama. And below this is the genre convention, the location, the catalyst, the avatars, and the level of conflicts. And just to clarify, the genre conventions are the factors in identifying the different genres used. Because in every genre, there are different treatment per film. So these genres were classified by the filmmakers themselves, and the researchers have used the contextual analysis to validate the content of the configuration of the genre conventions of the selected films. And as you can see that the level of conflicts is related to the conflict theory, which is one of the theories this study used aside from genre film theory. And under this section are the assumption theories adopted from Karl Marx from his theory, conflict theory, and there are below this is the four assumptions of conflict theory that are the war, structural inequality, and competition, which are the indicators of the level of conflict. So the first theory is genre film theory. This was used to analyze the aesthetic and technicalities of the film. There are many film scholars that tackled this theory, and this study makes use of Stephen Neal's insights regarding genre film theory, where he mentioned that films have instances of repetition and differences. So this means that films will have the same genre, but at the same time have differences in order to still be distinguishable. So it will catch the audience attention. He mentioned that in order to identify the genre of these films, there should be an analysis on the technicalities of the film, such as the decor, lighting, and color theory, and the likes. So, second theory is the conflict theory. This was devised by Karl Marx, and he describes that conflict occurs when there's a limited amount of resources for a community. He also wanted to identify what mainly causes conflict, which results in the following assumptions: the competition, structural inequality, and war. So this theory was used to identify and categorize the representation of the films regarding EJK and the conflict that occurs in the films. The data information were gathered through the method of comparative contextual analysis. This was presented by a screenshot of the specific scenes along with the timestamp and description of its context per films. So the data was compiled through information observation, and also a comparison to real life EJK events was also conducted. So as for the mise en scène, the configuration in the genres of thriller and crime, society and war was based on the genre conventions adopted from Coyne from his book The Story Grid. While Hellerman, the genre convention of drama, is adopted from his article from the Exploring the Drama Genre in Film and Television. The Song of Sparrows of Sri Kumar's list of Mise en Scene's code was also used in the study. So the researchers' code matrix use this as a method to identify the cinematic techniques that is used in the EJK related narrative films, such as the decor, lighting, space, costumes, and acting. As these five factors can help in the development of the narratives and the elements that can be conveyed through the audience cinematic experience. While Eors's assessment of the image of the Nigerian police in Bloody Night and Open Through 2017 and Westerback's police brutality, over policing, and mass incarceration in African American film 2019, these films examines the role of the police and police brutality in the paper selected films as follows: the conspiracy in cover up, torture and extrajudicial killings, corruption, police brutality, and social class inequality. And each of these elements has its own characteristics to provide the researchers with a further foundation for analyzing the three chosen films. Moving forward to the ethical discussion, the researchers scrutinize the details of the film through their cinematic techniques and context. The following are the ethical issues that the researchers has foreseen in conducting this study. First is that the researchers pledge not to be biased and simply discuss the findings and data from the content and contextual analysis of the three chosen EJK-related films. Second is the researchers did not tolerate any form of political propaganda and only discussed relevant topics and the scope of this study. Lastly, the researchers maintained ethical professionalism and credibility as researchers. Moving forward to the results and discussion of this study, the results of the EJK in the films were represented by Dermis and Sons. Configuration that tackles the genre convention, the common themes, and Miss and Son aesthetics that tackle the cinematic techniques of the films. So the first part of the result is regarding the common themes of the three chosen films. So the first common conflict theme is structural inequality, and its indicators are social class inequality and corruption. Second common conflict theme is competition, and its indicators are conspiracy and cover up. And the last common conflict theme is war, and its indicators are torture and extrajudicial killings and police brutality. So the conflicts determine the indicators based on the results and findings of this study. Second part of the results and discussion of this study is the mise-en-scène configuration that tackled the genre convention. So the findings of the paper have found that each film falls into similar genres based on the codes and themes from the methodology of this paper in determining the narratives of each film. So the genre convention of the film similarly fall under the genre of society in war, drama, crime, and war and crime thriller, which are similar in the portrayal of the catalyst and avatars in the EJK related films. So the location and the settings on the other hand of the three films takes place in the slums of Manila, where the extrajudicial killings representation in the film narratives occurred. The next discussion are the results of the mise-en-scène aesthetics that tackle the cinematic techniques of the films. So the filmmakers created films to employ a specific approach to enhance the meaning and message of specific subjects and genres. So the decor evokes the ambience of the films, real-life events, and it concentrates mostly on Manila slums, giving the idea to the audience that it takes place in a typical EJK setting. A film setting costumes and acting are employed to provide a more in-depth feel for what the character is given in a role or in a film by how they move, behave, and justify a certain role that is allocated to them. So this is not really relevant in all films because it only provides a greater understanding of a certain moment in a film narrative. So overall, the aesthetics and cinematic techniques are only a component of the film, but not all of them can really depict a real life event because the bulk of them simply provide an atmosphere and filter to the role and material use. So, therefore, the overall conclusion of this study, the depiction of extrajudicial killings in the Philippines in the film industry has become rampant and common since former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's war on drugs campaign occurred in the country. So, the real life EJK event was conveyed visually through the use of cinematic techniques and aesthetics, such as the decor, lighting, space, costumes, and acting. So, they were portrayed by using the mise-en-scène aesthetics and cinematic techniques. And when it comes to genres and genre convention, they tend to establish the tone for how the film will be perceived all throughout the film. So it depicts how characters might appear in a specific film. The use also of the appropriate aesthetics has a significant impact on the viewers since it serves as a roadmap for how the picture will unfold all throughout the film narratives. So, in line with the findings of this study, filming these types of films can be a way of communicating for us to be conscious and share the message that will act as a voice for the voiceless. I just want to say thank you so much for listening and say that mabuhay ang pelikulang Pilipino, mabuhay ang mga Pilipino. Maraming maraming salamat po.